As a forest ranger who grew up near the Smoky Mountains National Park, I always considered this place a sanctuary of natural beauty. The towering trees, lush greenery, and the gentle sounds of wildlife created a perfect backdrop for a life dedicated to nature. However, my personal experiences over the years led me to a terrifying conclusion. It's best to avoid this park at all costs. In recent years, I began noticing strange changes in the flora and fauna. Animals that were once common sightings, deer grazing in the meadows, the cheerful chirping of birds, had started to vanish. The trails that were once filled with the rustle of leaves and the chatter of squirrels became eerily quiet. It was as if a blanket of silence had enveloped the park, stifling the vibrant life that had thrived here for decades. During one routine patrol, I stumbled upon something that sent chills down my spine. Deep in the woods, I found mysterious markings on trees. Jagged lines carved into the bark, resembling claw marks but distinctly unnatural. It was as if the very essence of the forest was trying to communicate a warning, urging us to heed its call. I spent hours examining the area, but no rational explanation surfaced. The tension in the air was palpable, and I felt as though I were being watched from the shadows. One night, while camping in a secluded area I had always found peaceful, everything changed. As darkness fell, the forest transformed. What had been a comforting embrace of nature morphed into something sinister. The wind picked up, carrying with it faint whispers that seemed to echo among the trees. I strained my ears, trying to decipher the murmurs, but they eluded me, leaving an unsettling feeling in the pit of my stomach. It was as if the forest itself was alive, shifting and breathing, and it didn't appreciate my presence. The towering trees swayed, not merely from the wind, but with a deliberate, almost sentient movement. I sat up in my tent, my heart racing, as shadows flitted between the trees. The beauty of the park, once a source of comfort, now concealed something dark and foreboding. I clutched my flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness, revealing nothing but the familiar silhouettes of trees, yet I could sense an oppressive aura surrounding me. I delved deeper into my investigation. I uncovered ancient stories and reports of inexplicable events and disappearances that plagued the park throughout its history. Locals spoke of figures seen out of the corner of their eyes, of strange sounds carrying through the night, and of hikers who had ventured too far only to vanish without a trace. What truly inhabits these mountains? Each revelation deepened the sense of dread that had settled within me. The more I learned, the more the tension escalated, not only in my mind, but in the very air around me. It felt as if some unseen force was tightening its grip, watching me with malevolent intent. I began to connect the dots: the vanishing animals, the silence, the ancient warnings. Something was terribly wrong in the Smoky Mountains. I shared my findings with fellow rangers, but they dismissed my concerns with laughter, attributing them to my overactive imagination. Yet, I could not shake the feeling that the park was trying to convey a message. I began documenting my experiences, but each entry only fueled my anxiety. The forest was alive, and it had secrets it was not ready to share. As days turned into weeks, I found myself drawn back to the woods, despite the terror that gripped my heart. I wanted to uncover the truth, to confront whatever lay hidden among the trees. But that desire was met with an equal measure of fear. My skin prickled with the sensation of being followed, of eyes boring into my back. I could almost hear the whispers growing louder, beckoning me deeper into the heart of the park. Now I stand at a crossroads. The warning I carry is clear. Never go to Smoky Mountains National Park. The truth I have unearthed is more horrifying than you can imagine, lurking behind the facade of beauty. As I prepare to share my story, I hope to deter others from making the same mistakes I did. The Smoky Mountains, with their rolling hills and dense forests, were more than just a picturesque landscape. They were a character in their own right. Majestic peaks kissed by clouds, valleys blanketed in mist, and streams that babbled like old friends created an enchanting environment. However, beneath this idyllic surface lay a more complex narrative, one that entwined the lives of those who lived and worked within its confines. I was not alone in my role as a forest ranger. My team consisted of a group of seasoned professionals, each with their own stories and backgrounds. Among them was Sarah, a passionate ecologist who had dedicated her life to preserving the park's delicate ecosystem. She was a beacon of hope, always optimistic and eager to share her knowledge about the flora and fauna that thrived in the park. Yet lately, I noticed a subtle change in her demeanor. The sparkle in her eyes seemed dimmer, and her laughter had become less frequent. As we patrolled the trails together, I could sense her growing unease, mirroring my own. Then there was Marcus, a rugged veteran of the park service with years of experience etched into the lines of his weathered face. He had seen everything the mountains had to offer, from tranquil sunrises to violent storms. Marcus often regaled us with tales of his adventures, but lately, his stories took on a darker tone. He spoke in hushed tones about the strange occurrences he had witnessed, shadows moving in the corners of his vision, the feeling of being watched even when alone. Once a fearless leader, he now seemed haunted, weighed down by the burden of knowledge he could not explain. As we gathered around the fire on chilly nights, the atmosphere shifted. Conversations that once flowed easily became fraught with an unspoken tension. We shared ghost stories, tales of lost hikers, and local legends, but the fear in our hearts was palpable. The park, with all its beauty, was becoming a source of dread. One evening, while Sarah and I prepared for an overnight camping trip to survey a recently affected area, she confided in me about her concerns. "Have you noticed the changes in the wildlife?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "It feels like something is off. The deer are disappearing, and the birds. They're not singing like they used to." Her worry mirrored my own, igniting a spark of camaraderie as we both faced the unknown while we set up camp. I couldn't shake the feeling that the forest was closing in around us. The towering trees, once comforting, now loomed like sentinels, their branches twisting into grotesque shapes against the night sky. The air grew thick with anticipation, as if the forest itself held its breath. As night descended, we sat by the fire, our faces illuminated by the flickering flames. I decided to share my findings about the strange markings I had discovered. The moment I spoke of the claw-like engravings on the trees, a shiver ran through Sarah. "I've seen those too," she admitted, her voice trembling. "They're not just random. They seem deliberate, like a warning." Marcus, who had joined us, listened intently, his brow furrowed, and for the first time, he looked uncertain. "I heard stories about something lurking in these woods," he said, his voice low. "Old-timers used to talk about a presence, something that guards the forest. They say it doesn't take kindly to intruders." The fire crackled, and for a moment, we were lost in our thoughts. The stories we had dismissed as folklore now felt eerily relevant. I felt a chill creep up my spine, the weight of the park's secrets pressing down on us. The following morning, we set out to investigate a section of the park where wildlife had been noticeably scarce. As we trekked deeper into the woods, the atmosphere shifted. The usually vibrant sounds of nature were muted, replaced by an unsettling silence. Every rustle of leaves sent our hearts racing. I glanced at Sarah, who walked a few paces ahead, her usual confidence replaced by an anxious energy. We reached a clearing where the grass was trampled, as if something had passed through in a hurry. My instincts kicked in, and I knelt to inspect the ground. "Look at this," I called to Sarah and Marcus, pointing to a series of deep impressions in the earth. "These tracks. They're unlike anything I've seen before." The air grew heavy with tension as we stood in silence, absorbing the gravity of the situation. It was becoming increasingly clear that the park was hiding something, a truth buried beneath layers of folklore and natural beauty. A shroud of mystery enveloped us, and the whispers of the forest seemed to grow louder, urging us to uncover what lay hidden. As we continued our exploration, I could feel the weight of the mountains pressing down, as though they were aware of our intrusion. The Smoky Mountains were no longer just a backdrop for our lives. They had become a living entity, a force that demanded respect and caution. What had once been a place of refuge was now a source of fear, a labyrinth of secrets waiting to be uncovered. We had become part of a story much larger than ourselves, one that intertwined our fates with the ancient heartbeat of the forest. The question now loomed over us. Could we uncover the truth before it consumed us? The days turned into weeks, and the tension among us grew thicker than the mist that often blanketed the Smoky Mountains. Each patrol seemed to unveil more mysteries, yet with every discovery, a sense of dread crept deeper into our hearts. We were no longer just forest rangers. We had become reluctant investigators, drawn into a web of intrigue that threatened to ensnare us. One fateful afternoon, while surveying a remote area known for its lush undergrowth, we stumbled upon a clearing that seemed untouched by time. The sunlight filtered through the dense canopy, casting an ethereal glow over the scene. Yet, despite its beauty, an unsettling feeling prickled at the back of my mind. The air felt charged, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. As we stepped into the clearing, I noticed something peculiar, a circle of stones arranged in an intricate pattern at the center. The stones were weathered and covered in moss, but what really caught my attention were the strange symbols etched into their surfaces. They resembled the markings I had found on the trees, but here they were more elaborate, almost like an ancient language. Do you think this is some sort of ritual site? Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. There was a mixture of curiosity and fear in her eyes, reflecting the uncertainty we all felt. I don't know, I replied, scanning the area for signs of recent activity. But it's definitely not natural. We need to document this. Marcus, who had been examining the symbols, suddenly straightened. I've seen something like this in old folklore, he said, his voice low. The stories mention a guardian spirit of the forest, something that protects the land, but demands respect. Legend has it that those who disturb its domain face dire consequences. A chill ran through the group as Marcus's words hung heavy in the air. It felt as if we were standing on the precipice of something far greater than ourselves. The legends we had once dismissed now felt ominously real. Determined to investigate further, we decided to split up and search the surrounding area. I ventured into the denser part of the woods, heart racing with a mix of excitement and fear. The trees closed in around me, and the familiar sounds of the forest faded into an eerie silence. It was as though the very essence of the park was watching, waiting for my next move. As I moved deeper into the woods, I began to notice more signs of disturbance: broken branches, trampled undergrowth, and a faint, lingering scent that was difficult to identify. It was both earthy and metallic, a smell that made my stomach turn. Just as I was about to turn back, I caught a glimpse of movement out of the corner of my eye. I turned sharply, heart pounding, only to find myself staring at a deer. But this was no ordinary deer. Its eyes were wide and filled with fear, as if it were warning me to flee. I held my breath, and in that moment, the world around me seemed to drop away. The deer bolted, disappearing into the underbrush, leaving me alone with my racing thoughts. I rushed back to the clearing, where Sarah and Marcus were already waiting. "Did you find anything?" I asked, breathless. "Just more of those symbols," Sarah replied, her brow furrowed. "But I can't shake this feeling that we're not alone here." As if on cue, a low rumble echoed through the trees, causing the ground beneath our feet to tremble slightly. The sound resonated deep within my chest, and I exchanged worried glances with my colleagues. It felt as though the forest was responding to our presence, displeased by our intrusion. Maybe we should head back, Marcus suggested, his voice tinged with urgency. We've seen enough for today. Reluctantly, we agreed, but as we turned to leave, an unsettling sense of being watched enveloped us. The sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced ominously among the trees. The path back felt longer, the forest denser, and every rustle in the underbrush sent our hearts racing. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream cut through the silence, shattering the uneasy calm. We froze, adrenaline surging through our veins. It was Sarah. Without thinking, I bolted toward the sound, my instincts taking over. I found her standing near a massive oak tree, her face pale and eyes wide with terror. What happened? I gasped, scanning the area for threats. Something just moved in the shadows. She stammered, pointing toward the dense thicket. I could swear I saw it, a figure, almost human, but not quite. Marcus joined us, his face grim. We need to get out of here. Now, as we made our way back, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The once familiar trails felt foreign, like we were being led deeper into a labyrinth with no way out. The whispers from earlier returned, echoing through the trees, taunting us with secrets we could not comprehend. When we finally emerged from the woods, the sun had fully set, plunging us into darkness. The moon hung high in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the landscape. We hurried to the ranger station, our hearts racing, but the sense of safety was fleeting. The very essence of the park felt different now, as if it were alive and watching. That night, as I lay in my bunk, sleep eluded me. The day's events replayed in my mind, each moment more vivid than the last. The markings, the deer, the scream, everything felt interconnected, like pieces of a puzzle that I was desperate to solve. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that delving deeper into the secrets of the Smoky Mountains could come at a cost. The following morning, Sarah and Marcus met me in the common area, their expressions grave. "We need to talk," Sarah said, her voice steady but filled with determination. "If we're going to face whatever is out there, we need to stick together." Marcus nodded in agreement. "We can't let fear dictate our actions. If there's something in these woods that we need to confront, we owe it to ourselves and the park to find out what it is." With that, we made a pact to uncover the truth, no matter how terrifying it might be. The Smoky Mountains had become a battleground, and we were not just rangers anymore. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that delving deeper into the secrets of the Smoky Mountains could come at a cost. The following morning, Sarah and Marcus met me in the common area, their expressions grave. "We need to talk," Sarah said, her voice steady but filled with determination. "If we're going to face whatever is out there, we need to stick together." Marcus nodded in agreement. "We can't let fear dictate our actions." The forest, once a place of solace, transformed into a theater of hidden narratives, each character in our small team grappling with their own fears and uncertainties. One evening, while gathered around the fire, Sarah opened up about her past. "You know, my family used to come here every summer when I was a kid," she said, staring into the flames. "It was my favorite place, full of laughter and adventure. But that all changed when my little brother went missing during one of our trips." Her voice trembled as she spoke, and we leaned in closer, captivated by the weight of her words. "I remember running through these very woods, calling his name for hours," she continued, tears glistening in her eyes. "There was a fire in the park a few years back," he revealed one night, his voice low and filled with regret. "I was leading a team to evacuate hikers when one of them went missing. We searched for hours, but I had to make the choice to leave him behind to save the others. The weight of that decision hung heavily in the air. Marcus had always been the strong one, the steady leader, but now I could see the cracks in his facade. She was not just fighting against an unseen force. She was confronting her own demons. As the days wore on, Marcus's past began to surface as well. He had been a ranger for over 2 decades, but it became clear that his experience was marred by a haunting incident from years ago. There was a fire in the park a few years back, he revealed one night, his voice low and filled with regret. I was leading a team to evacuate hikers when one of them went missing. We searched for hours, but I had to make the choice to leave him behind to save the others. The weight of that decision hung heavily in the air. Marcus had always been the strong one, the steady leader, but now I could see the cracks in his facade. The guilt he carried was a silent companion, one that compounded the fear he felt about the current situation in the park. It was no longer just about the mysterious occurrences. It was about facing the repercussions of past choices that still haunted him. Meanwhile, I found myself grappling with my own insecurities. As the youngest member of the team, I often felt overshadowed by Sarah's passion and Marcus's experience. I questioned my ability to contribute meaningfully to our investigation. The weight of responsibility pressed down on my shoulders. I was determined not to let my team down, yet I feared I would do just that. One afternoon, while exploring a different section of the park, I stumbled upon an old, abandoned cabin. Its weathered walls and broken windows hinted at a forgotten history. Curiosity piqued, I ventured inside, discovering remnants of a life once lived. Dusty furniture, faded photographs, and an old journal tucked away in a corner. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that delving deeper into the secrets of the Smoky Mountains could come at a cost. The following morning, Sarah and Marcus met me in the common area, their expressions grave. "We need to talk," Sarah said, her voice steady but filled with determination. "If we're going to face whatever is out there, we need to stick together." Marcus nodded in agreement. "We can't let fear dictate our actions." "I fear what I've uncovered, and I'm afraid for those who follow." I hurried back to share my findings with Sarah and Marcus, excitement coursing through me. "I found a journal and an old cabin," I exclaimed, my voice trembling with urgency. "It talks about strange happenings and warns of something lurking in the shadows." Marcus's expression hardened as he listened. "We've heard whispers of others who have encountered similar experiences. It's not the first time people have gone missing or reported sightings." Sarah, intrigued yet cautious, suggested we investigate further. "This could help us make sense of what's happening," she said. "If we can uncover the truth behind these stories, we might stand a chance against whatever is threatening this place." As we planned our next steps, the tension among us grew. Each of us carried our own burdens, our pasts woven into the fabric of the present conflict. We were not just fighting against an unknown entity. We were battling our own fears, regrets, and the ghosts of decisions long made. The following night, we decided to explore the area near the cabin under the cover of darkness. Armed with flashlights, we trekked into the woods, the moonlight filtering through the trees, creating an otherworldly glow around us. Sarah, intrigued yet cautious, suggested we investigate further. "This could help us make sense of what's happening," she said. "If we can uncover the truth behind these stories, we might stand a chance against whatever is threatening this place." As we planned our next steps, the tension among us grew. Each of us carried our own burdens, our pasts woven into the fabric of the present conflict. We were not just fighting against an unknown entity. We froze, adrenaline surging through our veins. "What was that?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. Marcus gestured for us to stay quiet as he moved toward the door, peering out into the darkness. "Stay close," he instructed, his tone authoritative, yet laced with tension. As we held our breath, the forest around us seemed to come alive. The whispers we had heard before returned, swirling around us like a haunting melody. Shadows danced just beyond the reach of our flashlights. and the air grew thick with a sense of foreboding. "What's happening?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. Before we could answer, the sound of footsteps echoed through the trees, heavy and deliberate. We exchanged terrified glances, realization dawning that we were not alone. Whatever was in the woods with us was closing in. In that moment, the complexities of our circumstances became clear. We were not just fighting an external force. We were confronting our own fears, histories, and the very essence of what it meant to protect this land. The Smoky Mountains, with their rich tapestry of stories, had woven us into a narrative far more intricate than we could have ever anticipated. As we braced ourselves for what lay ahead, I knew that our bonds would be tested, and the choices we made in the coming days would shape not only our destinies but also the fate of the Smoky Mountains themselves. The forest felt alive as we huddled together in the cabin, hearts pounding in unison. The echoes of footsteps grew louder, reverberating through the trees, and the whispers turned into an unsettling chorus. It was as if the very essence of the Smoky Mountains was reaching out to us, urging us to confront the darkness that lay hidden within its depths. "Stay close together," Marcus instructed, his eyes scanning the shadows that danced just beyond our flashlights. "We need to assess the situation and find a way out if things get hostile." Sarah clutched my arm, her grip tightening as the sound of branches snapping underfoot grew nearer. I could feel her fear radiating through me, amplifying my own trepidation. What if it's not just an animal? What if it's something else? She whispered, her voice barely audible over the rising tension. The air grew heavier, and I could taste the metallic tang of fear on my tongue. We had ventured into the unknown, unearthing secrets that perhaps were meant to remain buried. The stories of shadowy figures and missing hikers suddenly felt all too real, and I questioned whether we were prepared for what was to come. "Let's check the back door," I suggested, trying to keep my voice steady. "If something's out there, we need to have an escape route." As we moved cautiously, the whispers crescendoed into a cacophony, swirling around us like a tempest. Sarah, intrigued yet cautious, suggested we investigate further. "This could help us make sense of what's happening," she said. "If we can uncover the truth behind these stories, we might stand a chance against whatever is threatening this place." As we planned our next steps, the tension among us grew. Each of us carried our own burdens, our pasts woven into the fabric of the present conflict. We were not just fighting against an unknown entity. We jumped, hearts racing, as a figure emerged from the shadows, silhouetted against the moonlight. "Who's there?" Marcus shouted, stepping forward. The beam of his flashlight illuminated the figure, revealing a disheveled man, wild-eyed and panting, as if he had just escaped from a nightmare. "It's him. It's the one from the stories," he gasped, his voice trembling. "You have to listen to me. They're coming for you." "Who's coming?" Sarah demanded, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. "What do you know?" He stumbled into the cabin, his face pale and drawn. "I was hiking alone a few weeks ago. I saw things. Shadows moving in the trees. I thought I was losing my mind, but then they came for me." The urgency in his voice sent chills down my spine. "What did you see?" I pressed, desperate for answers. "I can't explain it," he replied, eyes darting around the room as if expecting something to leap from the shadows. "They're not like anything you've ever encountered. They're guardians of the forest, angry spirits protecting their domain. They don't want us here." The weight of his words settled heavily upon us, and a silence enveloped the cabin. The stories we had brushed off as mere folklore suddenly took on a sinister reality. Could there be a force in these mountains that was more than just our imagination? "We have to leave," Marcus finally said, breaking the silence. "If what he says is true, we're in danger. We can't stay here any longer." As we prepared to escape, I felt a surge of determination. Wait, we can't just run without understanding what we're up against. What if we can find a way to communicate with whatever is out there? Sarah nodded, her eyes brightening with the spark of hope. Maybe we can find a way to appease them. If they're guardians, perhaps we can show them we mean no harm. The man shook his head vehemently. You don't understand. They don't want to be appeased. They want to protect their territory. You can't reason with them. But the idea had taken root in my mind, and I couldn't shake the feeling that there had to be a way to bridge the gap between us and whatever force inhabited the mountains. We need to explore the markings we found earlier, I urged. If they're part of a ritual or a message, we might find a clue to understanding what's happening. Reluctantly, Marcus agreed. Fine, but we need to move quickly. We'll head to the clearing where we found the stones and investigate the symbols further. As we stepped out into the night, the air felt charged with electricity. The whispers rose once more, swirling around us like an unseen force. With each step deeper into the forest, I felt the weight of our mission bearing down on us. The darkness that had once felt so familiar now seemed to pulse with a life of its own, a reminder of the hidden truths lurking just beyond our sight. We made our way to the clearing, our flashlights casting eerie shadows among the trees. The symbols we had discovered earlier glowed faintly in the moonlight, as if holding secrets waiting to be unveiled. The atmosphere crackled with tension, and I could feel the forest watching us, waiting to see what we would do next. All right, I said, kneeling beside the stones. Let's see if we can decipher these markings. Maybe they hold the key to understanding what we're facing. Sarah and the man joined me, and together we examined the symbols etched into the stones. I traced my fingers over the intricate designs, feeling an odd sense of connection with the past. It was as if the very essence of the forest was reaching out to us, urging us to listen. As we worked, Sarah spoke softly, her voice barely rising above the rustle of the leaves. What if these symbols are a form of communication? Maybe they tell a story about the guardians and their purpose. The idea resonated within me. If we can uncover their meaning, perhaps we can address whatever is watching us. We need to show them we respect their domain. Suddenly, a gust of wind whipped through the clearing, sending a shiver down my spine. The whispers grew louder, swirling around us like a tempest. We exchanged frightened glances, but I pressed on, determined to uncover the truth. After what felt like an eternity, we began to piece together the meaning behind the symbols. They told a story of balance between the natural world and humanity, a reminder that the forest was not merely a backdrop for our lives, but a living entity deserving of respect. This is about coexistence, I said, my voice filled with conviction. We can't approach this as intruders. We need to show them we honor this land. Just as we began to formulate a plan, the air grew still, the whispers falling silent. A shadow moved at the edge of the clearing, and my heart raced as I turned to face it. From the darkness emerged a figure, ethereal and haunting. Its form flickered like a candle flame, shifting between solidity and transparency. It was both beautiful and terrifying, a manifestation of the forest's ancient spirit who dares disturb this sacred ground. The figure intoned, its voice resonating with the very heart of the woods. We stood frozen, fear gripping us, but I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. We mean no harm, I called out, stepping forward. We seek to understand. Understanding is not enough. The spirit interrupted, its voice echoing through the clearing like thunder. But had I truly respected their essence? Had I ever considered the lives that had been lost within their depths? I have a locket, Sarah said suddenly, her voice breaking the silence. It belonged to my brother. He disappeared here, and I've kept it close as a reminder of what I lost. I would offer it to the forest, to honor his memory. Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. I could see the determination in her eyes, the desire to reconcile her past with the present. We want to learn and respect the land. Help us find a way to coexist. The spirit's gaze pierced through me, as if searching my soul for truth. To coexist, you must acknowledge the past and honor the fallen. Only then can the balance be restored, as the weight of its words settled upon us. I knew our path forward would not be easy. It's a beautiful gesture, I said, feeling a swell of pride for my friend. Your brother deserves to be remembered, and this forest deserves to know that we honor him. Marcus nodded in agreement, though his expression remained troubled. But what about the others? The hikers who went missing before. From the darkness emerged a figure, ethereal and haunting. Its form flickered like a candle flame, shifting between solidity and transparency. It was both beautiful and terrifying, a manifestation of the forest's ancient spirit who dares disturb this sacred ground. The figure intoned, its voice resonating with the very heart of the woods. We stood frozen, fear gripping us, but I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. We mean no harm, I called out, stepping forward. We seek to understand. Understanding is not enough. The spirit interrupted, its voice echoing through the clearing like thunder. The Smoky Mountains had called, and we would answer. The air in the clearing buzzed with an electric tension as the spirit's presence loomed over us. We were caught in a moment of vulnerability, our fates intertwined with the ancient forces of the forest. The gravity of what lay ahead weighed heavily on my shoulders, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, echoing the urgency of our mission. As the spirit hovered, its form shimmering in the moonlight, I knew we had to act swiftly. What must we do to honor the past? I asked, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me. Sacrifice must be made, the spirit replied, its voice resonating like a distant thunderclap. You must offer a token of your respect to those who have lost their way in these woods. Only then can the balance be restored and peace return to the land. The weight of its words settled heavily upon us. I exchanged fearful glances with Sarah and Marcus, who both seemed to grapple with the implications of the spirit's demand. To offer a sacrifice meant confronting the very essence of our relationship with the forest, a relationship built on both reverence and disregard. What kind of sacrifice? Marcus asked, his voice trembling slightly. What do you want from us? Not what you think of as a sacrifice, the spirit clarified, its ethereal form shimmering. It is a gesture of humility, a recognition of loss. Bring forth something from your hearts, something that signifies your commitment to this land and its guardians. As we digested the spirit's words, I couldn't help but reflect on my own connection to the mountains. I had spent years patrolling these woods, learning their secrets and celebrating their beauty. But had I truly respected their essence? Had I ever considered the lives that had been lost within their depths? I have a locket, Sarah said suddenly, her voice breaking the silence. It belonged to my brother. He disappeared here, and I've kept it close as a reminder of what I lost. I would offer it to the forest, to honor his memory. Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. I could see the determination in her eyes, the desire to reconcile her past with the present. It's a beautiful gesture, I said, feeling a swell of pride for my friend. Your brother deserves to be remembered, and this forest deserves to know that we honor him. Marcus nodded in agreement, though his expression remained troubled. But what about the others? The hikers who went missing before. We can't just honor one life. His concern resonated with me, and I realized that the weight of our actions extended beyond just our personal histories. We need to acknowledge everyone who has been lost in these mountains, I said. We should create a place of remembrance, a tribute to all those who have walked these paths and never returned. She initiated projects focused on wildlife conservation, working tirelessly to document the flora and fauna, that had begun to re-emerge in the wake of our tribute. Her passion was infectious, and soon we were all invested in her vision. The whispers that had once felt ominous now turned into a gentle murmur, as if the forest itself was listening. We poured our hearts into the tribute, and with each stone placed, a weight lifted from our shoulders. When we finished, the clearing was transformed into a sacred space, a testament to the lives that had intertwined with the forest over the years. In the center, Sarah placed her brother's locket, its delicate chain gleaming in the moonlight. "May this serve as a reminder," she said softly, her voice filled with emotion, "that every life lost is a part of this land, and we carry their memories with us as we step back to admire our work." The spirit lingered, its form shimmering with an otherworldly light. "You have done well," it intoned, a hint of warmth in its voice. "The balance begins to shift. But remember, it is not just one act that will maintain this harmony. You must continue to respect and protect the land and its stories." Yes, I agreed, feeling the weight of our responsibility. "We will honor this promise, not just today, but for as long as we are here." With that, the spirit began to fade, its presence lingering in the air like a gentle breeze. As it dissipated, a sense of calm enveloped the clearing, and the forest seemed to exhale, releasing the tension that had gripped it for so long. But as the spirit vanished, a new wave of apprehension washed over us. What would be the consequences of our actions? Would the forest truly accept our tribute, or had we only scratched the surface of something far more complicated? The night wore on, and we settled back into the cabin, a mixture of relief and unease settling in our hearts. The shadows outside felt less threatening now, but I couldn't shake the feeling that our journey was far from over. As dawn broke, casting a golden light across the Smoky Mountains, we gathered outside to survey the landscape. The forest, once foreboding, now felt more alive than ever. The chirping of birds filled the air, and the rustling of leaves created a symphony of nature awakening from slumber. Yet, beneath this newfound tranquility, I sensed an undercurrent of vigilance. The forest was watching us, and our actions had set in motion a series of consequences we could not fully comprehend. As we prepared to return to our duties, I made a silent vow to commit myself to the stewardship of the land. I knew that honoring the past was only the beginning. The true test lay ahead in how we would navigate the complexities of our relationship with the Smoky Mountains and its guardians. We had taken the first step towards reconciliation, but the path forward would require dedication, respect, and a willingness to confront the shadows that lingered just beyond our sight. As the sun rose higher in the sky, illuminating the Smoky Mountains with a warm golden glow, I felt a sense of renewal wash over me. The tribute we had created in the clearing served as a reminder of our commitment to honor the past, but it also ignited a fire within us, a determination to protect the land and its stories for generations to come. In the days that followed, our team transformed. The atmosphere among us shifted from one of fear and uncertainty to a shared purpose. We embraced our roles not just as forest rangers, but as guardians of the forest's legacy. Each patrol became an opportunity to observe the subtle changes in the ecosystem, and we found ourselves more attuned to the rhythms of nature. Sarah, empowered by her act of remembrance, took on a leadership role within our team. She initiated projects focused on wildlife conservation, working tirelessly to document the flora and fauna that had begun to re-emerge in the wake of our tribute. Her passion was infectious, and soon we were all invested in her vision. Together, we organized community outreach programs, inviting local schools to participate in educational hikes that emphasized the importance of preserving the park's delicate balance. "Look at this." He opened up about the hiker who had gone missing during the fire, and how he had struggled with guilt since that day. "I thought I could have saved him," he confessed one evening, his voice steady but filled with emotion. but I've come to realize that I did the best I could under the circumstances." He opened up about the hiker who had gone missing during the fire and how he had struggled with guilt since that day. "I thought I could have saved him," he confessed one evening, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "But I've come to realize that I did the best I could under the circumstances. Now I want to honor his memory by ensuring no one else faces the same fate." As he spoke, I could see the burden he had carried for so long beginning to ease. His vulnerability drew us closer as a team, and we rallied around him, ready to support him in his quest for redemption. Together, we developed safety measures for hikers, creating guidebooks that highlighted the park's most treacherous areas and emphasized the importance of preparedness. But it wasn't just our professional lives that were evolving. We planned activities that showcased the rejuvenated wildlife and the tribute we had created, hoping to bridge the gap between our team and the community. The day arrived, and a mix of excitement and apprehension filled the air. As locals gathered, I could sense their skepticism. Many watched us with crossed arms, their expressions unreadable. It was about cultivating a relationship with the land, fostering respect, and recognizing the interconnectedness of all living things. Yet, with growth came challenges. Despite our efforts to restore balance, whispers of discontent began to surface within the park. Some locals resisted our initiatives, believing that we were overstepping our boundaries. "The forest has always been wild," one elder remarked during a community meeting. "You can't change nature. It's meant to be chaotic." His words resonated with a faction of the community, sparking debates about conservation versus preservation. We found ourselves at a crossroads, faced with the delicate task of balancing respect for the land's wildness with the responsibility to protect it from harm. "Maybe we should invite them to see the changes we've made," I suggested one afternoon, energized by the idea of creating dialogue. If they witnessed the positive impact firsthand, they might feel differently. Sarah and Marcus agreed, and we set out to organize an open day in the park, inviting locals to join us on guided tours. We planned activities that showcased the rejuvenated wildlife and the tribute we had created, hoping to bridge the gap between our team and the community. The day arrived, and a mix of excitement and apprehension filled the air. As locals gathered, I could sense their skepticism. Many watched us with crossed arms, their expressions unreadable. Yet, as the tours progressed, I began to see a shift. We shared stories of the forest's history, its legends, and the importance of preserving its beauty for future generations. When we reached the clearing where our tribute lay, a palpable silence enveloped the group. "This is where we honored those who have been lost in these woods," I explained, my voice steady. "We believe that by acknowledging their stories, we can create a stronger bond with the land and ensure that its beauty remains intact." It was about cultivating a relationship with the land, fostering respect, and recognizing the interconnectedness of all living things. Yet, with growth came challenges. Despite our efforts to restore balance, whispers of discontent began to surface within the park. Some locals resisted our initiatives, believing that we were overstepping our boundaries. "The forest has always been wild," one elder remarked during a community meeting. "You can't change nature. It's meant to be chaotic." His words resonated with a faction of the community, sparking debates about conservation versus preservation. Our personal connections deepened as well. We spent evenings sharing stories around the fire, our laughter mingling with the sounds of the forest. The bonds forged in those moments became the foundation of our resilience. One night, as the stars sparkled overhead, I found myself reflecting on my own journey. The Smoky Mountains had always been a part of me, but now they were woven into the fabric of my identity. I had come to understand the true essence of being a ranger, one that extended beyond the duty of patrolling the trails. In the weeks that followed, our relationship with the community blossomed. We collaborated on new initiatives, incorporating their wisdom and insights into our conservation efforts. The Smoky Mountains became a symbol of our collective resilience, a testament to the strength found in unity. As the seasons changed, I marveled at how far we had come. The forest thrived, and so did we. We overcame our fears, confronted our pasts, and emerged stronger, not just as individuals, but as a cohesive team. The Smoky Mountains had taught us invaluable lessons about respect, humility, and the importance of connection, lessons that would shape our lives and guide our actions for years to come. We were no longer just forest rangers. We were stewards of a legacy, committed to nurturing the land and its stories, ensuring that the whispers of the past would always be heard in the rustle of the leaves and the songs of the wind. As the seasons shifted, and the Smoky Mountains donned their autumn colors, the air grew crisp and charged with anticipation. Our relationship with the community had blossomed, but with that growth came an undercurrent of tension. The forest, whose beauty had become a source of pride for many, also harbored secrets that were yet to be unveiled. The balance we had worked so hard to achieve felt fragile, as if the very fabric of nature was holding its breath. One late afternoon, as the sun dipped low in the sky and cast long shadows across the forest floor, I gathered our team in the cabin to discuss what lay ahead. Leaves crunched under our boots as we entered, the familiar scent of pine and wood smoke wrapping around us like an old blanket. Marcus, Sarah, and I exchanged glances, sensing the weight of the moment. We've made great strides in rebuilding trust with the community, I began, my voice steady, but filled with urgency. I closed my eyes, allowing the energy of the gathering to envelop me, and for a fleeting moment, I felt a connection to something much larger than myself. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the clearing, extinguishing our lanterns and plunging us into darkness. Gasps filled the air as we fumbled for our flashlights, a sense of unease gripping our hearts. There are accounts of an ancient guardian, a being that protects the forest, but also punishes those who disrespect it. The stories might hold clues about what we're facing. Marcus leaned forward, his hands resting on the table. We need to find a way to communicate with the spirit again. If it truly is a guardian, it may have insight into the disturbances we're witnessing. But we must approach it with respect and caution. We can't afford to make the same mistakes as before. With a shared sense of purpose, we devised a plan to prepare for our next encounter with the spirit. We would create a ceremonial gathering, inviting members of the community to join us in honoring the forest and acknowledging its power. It was crucial that we approached this not just as rangers, but as humble participants in a greater narrative. As the days passed, I could feel the tension mounting. The forest seemed to respond to our efforts. The air was thick with anticipation, and whispers echoed through the trees. The animals, once wary, began to appear more frequently, their presence a reminder of the delicate balance we were striving to maintain on the night of our ceremony. We gathered at the clearing where we had first made our tribute. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the stones we had arranged. Lanterns flickered around us, illuminating the faces of the community members who had come to join us. I could see the mixture of curiosity and apprehension in their eyes. Mirroring my own feelings, Sarah took the lead, guiding everyone in the preparations. Tonight, we honor the spirit of the forest and those who have been lost within it, she said, her voice steady. Let us come together in gratitude and respect, acknowledging the connection we share with this land. As we formed a circle, I felt the weight of history pressing down on us. Each person brought something to offer, a token, a story, or a memory. It was a moment of vulnerability, as we laid bare our hearts before the spirit of the forest. As the ceremony commenced, we shared stories of the land, recalling the beauty and the pain intertwined in our experiences. The air grew heavy with emotion, and I could feel the spirit's presence swirling around us. I closed my eyes, allowing the energy of the gathering to envelop me, and for a fleeting moment, I felt a connection to something much larger than myself. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the clearing, extinguishing our lanterns and plunging us into darkness. Gasps filled the air as we fumbled for our flashlights, a sense of unease gripping our hearts. The whispers grew louder, echoing through the trees, drowning out our voices. "Stay calm." I called out, my heart racing. "This is part of the ceremony. We're here to honor and respect the spirit." As our flashlights flickered back to life, we saw a figure emerging from the shadows, a translucent silhouette that shimmered in the moonlight. It hovered just beyond the circle, its form both beautiful and terrifying. The air crackled with energy, and I knew this was our moment to confront the truth that had haunted us for so long. Who dares to summon me? The spirit's voice resonated, echoing through the clearing like the rumble of distant thunder. I stepped forward, my heart pounding. "We come in peace, seeking to understand the disturbances in the forest and the stories of those who have been lost. We honor the past and wish to protect the future." The spirit's gaze pierced through me, and I felt the weight of its judgment. We were on the brink of a revelation that would reshape our understanding of the forest and our place within it, with the community gathered around us. I knew we had to face whatever challenges lay ahead. We had come together in a spirit of unity, and that strength would carry us through the trials to come. The Smoky Mountains had taught us so much about respect, humility, and the importance of connection. Now, as we stood on the precipice of the unknown, I felt a fierce determination rise within me. We would not shy away from the consequences of our actions. We were on the brink of a revelation that would reshape our understanding of the forest and our place within it, with the community gathered around us. I knew we had to face whatever challenges lay ahead. We had come together in a spirit of unity, and that strength would carry us through the trials to come. The Smoky Mountains had taught us so much about respect, humility, and the importance of connection. Now, as we stood on the precipice of the unknown, I felt a fierce determination rise within me. We would not shy away from the consequences of our actions. Together, we would confront the darkness and strive to restore balance to the land we loved. The journey had only just begun, and I was ready to face whatever awaited us in the heart of the forest. The spirit's presence enveloped us, a swirling mist of ancient energy that crackled in the air, heightening the tension in the clearing. Its form shimmered like moonlight on water, and its eyes, if they could be called, that pierced through the shadows, locking onto mine with an intensity that sent a chill down my spine. "Prepare yourselves," the spirit intoned, its voice echoing like thunder through the trees. The winds howled, bending the branches and rustling the leaves, creating an eerie symphony that resonated with our fears. "You have disturbed the balance, and now you must face the consequences of your actions." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility rest on my shoulders. "We acknowledge our mistakes," I said, my voice steady, though my heart raced. "We have come to honor the forest and those who have been lost within it. We wish to understand how to restore what has been broken." The spirit's form flickered, and I could sense a storm brewing not just in the skies above, but within the very heart of the forest itself. "The past cannot be undone," it replied, a somber tone underlining its words. "But those who seek redemption must be willing to make sacrifices." As it spoke, the ground beneath us trembled. The shadows around the clearing deepened, and I could hear whispers rising from the trees, a cacophony of voices blending into a haunting chorus. The community members huddled closer together, their faces a mix of fear and determination. We had come too far to turn back now. "Tell us what we must do," Sarah shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. "We are ready to face whatever it takes." The spirit's gaze shifted to her, and I could see a flicker of approval in its ethereal eyes. "You must confront the darkness that lies within the forest." A creature has awakened born from the sorrow and fear of those who have wandered astray. Until it is faced, peace cannot be restored. A creature? The word hung in the air like a heavy fog. I exchanged worried glances with Marcus and Sarah, knowing that we had entered a realm of danger we hadn't anticipated. Where can we find this creature? I asked, my voice unwavering despite the fear gnawing at my insides. Follow the path of the lost, the spirit replied, gesturing toward the depths of the forest. Together, we would confront the darkness and strive to restore balance to the land we loved. The journey had only just begun, and I was ready to face whatever awaited us in the heart of the forest. The spirit's presence enveloped us, a swirling mist of ancient energy that crackled in the air, heightening the tension in the clearing. Its form shimmered like moonlight on water, and its eyes, if they could be called, that pierced through the shadows, locking onto mine with an intensity that sent a chill down my spine. Prepare yourselves, the spirit intoned, its voice echoing like thunder through the trees. We can do this as a team. As we stepped into the thick underbrush, the atmosphere shifted. The trees loomed taller, their gnarled branches forming a canopy that blocked out the moonlight. It felt as if we had entered a different world, one where the shadows whispered secrets of those who had come before us. The path was narrow and winding, each step bringing us closer to the heart of the forest. The air grew thick with tension, and the whispers intensified, echoing the fears we all held. Memories of those who had vanished danced through my mind, and I could feel the weight of their stories pressing against my chest. Suddenly, the ground beneath us shifted, and a low growl reverberated through the air. The shadows coalesced into a form, a hulking figure with glowing eyes that pierced the darkness. It was a creature born from the sorrow of the lost, its body a twisted amalgamation of shadows and despair. Who dares to intrude? It bellowed, its voice a rumble that shook the very ground beneath our feet. You cannot hope to challenge me. We are here to confront you, I declared, stepping forward despite the trembling in my legs. We seek to restore the balance and honor those who have been lost. We refuse to let fear dictate our fate any longer. The creature let out a deafening roar, the sound echoing through the forest like a storm. You think you can challenge the darkness? You are but fleeting shadows yourself. As it lunged toward us, I felt a surge of adrenaline. Stand your ground, I shouted as we formed a protective circle. The creature's form was shifting, dark tendrils swirling around it, but we stood together, united in our purpose. Remember why we are here, Sarah shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. We honor the lost, and we will not let their stories fade into despair. The creature hesitated, its glowing eyes flickering with uncertainty. You think your memories can conquer me? I thrive on their sorrow. Then let us show you that their memories are not just of loss, but of love and life, Marcus replied, stepping forward with conviction. We will fight for them, for their stories to live on. In that moment, we began to share the memories of those we had lost, an outpouring of love, laughter, and life that resonated through the clearing. Each story intertwined with the others, creating a tapestry of resilience that pushed back against the creature's darkness. The shadows around the creature writhed and twisted, as if struggling against the warmth of our memories. The air grew thick with energy, and the whispers transformed into a symphony of support, echoing the strength of our collective spirit. No, the creature roared, its form destabilizing as our memories surged against it. You cannot defeat me with mere recollections. But we pressed on, determined not to let fear take hold. We are more than our losses, I shouted, feeling the power of our unity. We are the guardians of their stories. As the creature writhed under the weight of our memories, I stepped forward, channeling all the courage and love I had within me. You cannot thrive on despair any longer. We reclaim this forest and all those who have been lost. With one final, powerful surge of energy, Our memories coalesced into a brilliant light that enveloped the creature. It let out a deafening roar, but the sound faded into a whisper as the darkness began to dissipate. The shadows retreated, unraveling like smoke in the wind, until the creature's form disintegrated into nothingness. As silence enveloped the clearing, I felt a wave of relief wash over us. The air shimmered with renewed energy, and the forest seemed to sigh in gratitude. We had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, not just for ourselves, but for those who had come before us. In that moment, I understood the true power of our connection to the land and to each other. We had reclaimed the stories of the lost, transforming sorrow into strength. The Smoky Mountains, once a place of hidden fears, had become a sanctuary of hope and resilience. As we stood together in the clearing, illuminated by the soft glow of the moon, I knew that our journey was far from over. The forest still had its secrets, but we were no longer afraid. We were the guardians of this land, and we would honor its stories, ensuring that the light of love and memory would forever shine through the shadows. In the days that followed our confrontation with the creature, the Smoky Mountains began to heal in more ways than one. The forest, once shrouded in darkness and fear, slowly reclaimed its vibrant life. Birds returned to their nests, and the rustle of leaves was accompanied by the joyful sounds of wildlife. The air felt lighter, and the weight of the past seemed to lift, replaced by a renewed sense of hope and purpose. Our team, now bonded by shared experiences and newfound courage, dedicated ourselves to the ongoing protection of the park. Sarah's efforts to educate the community blossomed into a robust program that connected local schools with the forest. Children learned about ecology and the importance of respecting nature, ensuring that future generations would hold the Smoky Mountains in reverence. Marcus found peace within himself. He often led hiking groups through the forest, sharing the stories of its beauty and the lessons learned from our harrowing encounter. A newfound understanding of the fragility of life imbued his words with wisdom, and he became a mentor to many. As for me, I learned that true guardianship is not just about maintaining the land, but also embracing the stories that come with it. I began documenting our experiences, weaving together the folklore and truths of the Smoky Mountains into a narrative that honored both the beauty and the danger of the wilderness. Each tale served as a reminder that while nature can be unforgiving, it also holds the power of redemption and renewal. The spirit that once loomed over us became a symbol of our resilience. We planted a small grove of trees near the ceremonial clearing, each one representing a lost soul and a promise to protect the land. The community came together to celebrate this new beginning, honoring both the past and the future with respect and gratitude. Yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that the forest was still watching, still waiting. I understood that the balance we fought to restore required constant vigilance. The Smoky Mountains were alive, a living tapestry of stories, struggles, and triumphs. Our journey had not ended. It had merely transformed. Years later, the Smoky Mountains stood as a testament to the resilience of nature and the strength of the human spirit. The stories of our encounters echoed through the trails, passed down to new generations of rangers and visitors. The grove we planted flourished, a sanctuary for wildlife and a reminder of the importance of harmony between humanity and the natural world. As I walked through the woods, I felt the spirit's presence in every rustle of leaves, a gentle reminder that while we may face darkness, light and hope can always be found in the heart of the forest. Join us in preserving the beauty and mystery of our natural landscapes. Whether it's through volunteering with local conservation groups, participating in educational programs, or simply respecting the environment during your outdoor adventures, every action counts. Embrace the stories of the land you explore and become a guardian of nature. Together, we can ensure that the Smoky Mountains and other treasured parks remain vibrant for generations to come. Let your voice be heard and your actions inspire others. Become a steward of the earth, and help protect the wild places that hold our history and future.